I recently finished my Eclipse climb and eclipsed the 1,000 hour mark in Risk of Rain 2. So join me as I rank every white item in the game. And subscribe because I will be ranking each rarity of item in upcoming videos. I will say quickly before starting, these rankings are done on average. Of course, Loader gets a lot more value out of a focus crystal than Railgunner does. So I tried to rank the items based on their average usage. Starting us off in last, to no one's surprise, is Bison Steak. 25 flat health with no scaling is terrible, and it always will be. 28th is Medkit. You'll never use it on purpose to heal, so it's more of a side effect of taking damage, but if used correctly, it makes really good scrap for printers. Now, these next two could go back and forth, but number 27 is War Banner. The small attack and movement speed boost can be nice during teleporter events if you time it right, but only some survivors get any use from the attack speed part, so it's usually not worth keeping past stage 1. Number 26 is Bustling Fungus. Standing still is almost always a terrible idea, but it can be helpful for things like opening void cradles after teleporter is done. Other than Engineer, it's scrap. And on Engineer, it's still way worse than its void version. Number 25 is Roll of Pennies. Pennies are certainly helpful to move through stages more quickly, and you can use Wisps and Blazing Elite Trails to make really good use of this item. However, as much as it does help, it's not needed. As long as you are looting everything efficiently, time doesn't matter, and neither will the pennies. Number 24 is Monster Tooth. I actually love Monster Tooth as an early game healing option, but late game it falls off hard due to it only healing 2% of your max HP outside of the flat 8 health, which becomes irrelevant quickly. 23 is Tougher Times Teddy. Now, just because I bought the U2's Teddy and it'll arrive in August doesn't mean that it's that good of an item. It's nice to have one for a 15% chance to block damage, but the hyperbolic scaling makes it really tough to stack, and its void counterpart is so much better. Number 22 is Stun Grenade. This is our first item that is very survivor and proc dependent. Commando, for example, gets really good use out of it and can just stand in front of an elite Elder Lemurian and watch as it sits there completely stun-locked. But Loader gets virtually no use out of it at all because she's not hitting enemies very often. Number 21 is the Power Elixir. Having a cool name doesn't mean it's a good item. In all reality, it should be slightly lower, especially in Eclipse, but being able to save watches from being broken is enough to put it here. Number 20 is Topaz Brooch. Brooch can be really helpful early game to give some solid barrier during teleporters, but does fall off since it's a flat 15 barrier that does not scale with your health. Number 19 is Personal Shield Generator. Recharging much faster than health does is a fantastic way to deal with chip damage, and it works really well with Plasma Shrimp, but there are a lot of other items that will give more value. Number 18 is Soldier Syringe, another example of a survivor-dependent item. Once again, I'll use Commando and Loader as examples. On Commando, it can be super helpful with bleed and proc chains, while Loader, it's free scrap. But on average, it helps with a good number of survivors. Number 17 is Sticky Bomb. With only a 5% chance to proc and only 180% damage, it's rather mid, and has a 0.0 proc coefficient, so it cannot continue any proc chains. It's helpful in some scenarios, but a mediocre item. Number 16 is Tri-Tip Dagger. Proc survivors make really good use of this, while burst survivors do not. It's the definition of a survivor-specific item, so it sits in the middle of this list. On Loader, it's scrap, but on Commando, it's easily top 10. Number 15 is the Rusted Key. Which would you rather have? One white scrap or a green item with the chance of a red, allegedly? You really should never scrap this item, and the potential for void keys is so good that it's always worth keeping, but you may end up with Leeching Seed, and that's very sad. To begin the top half of items, we have Crowbar at the number 14. There's only one other item in this video I'll say this for, but it's super survivor specific. And because I've used them so much already, let's do it again. Commando, Crowbar, bad. Loader, Crowbar, good. However, it's higher than other survivor-dependent items because you can get some really good value out of items like Bands, Capacitor, Prion, and some others. Number 13 is Backup Mag. And here we have the last really survivor-dependent item. Railgunner, Captain, Engineer, and maybe Commando don't see a lot of value here, but the survivors that do utilize it really well, which is why it's this high on the list. Number 12 is Repulsion Armor Plate. This is an interesting one, because having 2 to 3 of these is so helpful for that chip damage, especially on Eclipse 8 to avoid curse from every wisp shot. However, it's a terrible item to stack much past that, since it's a flat reduction, and you can certainly win a run without any. Overall, really helpful when you have it, but not entirely necessary. Number 11. It pains me for this to be this low, but it's my beloved Fireworks. I love Fireworks so much. Just to deal with pesky groups of enemies while not even paying attention to them, it stacks well, and it's essential to one of the most fun builds in the game with Remote Caffeinator. However, this is as high as I can put it, regardless of how biased I am. Starting our top 10, we have armor-piercing rounds. These are extremely helpful for speedruns, but outside of that, they are still a great item. That's mainly because of Mithrix, but dealing 20% extra damage to teleporter bosses is super nice, and it's a great use of multiplicative damage. Number 9 is Focus Crystal. Focus Crystal may seem like a survivor-dependent item, but outside of Railgunner, it's not. Even survivors like Artificer, Commando, and Multi can use Focus Crystal damage. It's another great instance of multiplicative damage, and the survivors that really use it, like Void Fiend, Acrid, Mercenary, and Loader, really use it. Number 8 is Cautious Slug. Now this might be a biased rank here, but I love my Cautious Slug friend. If you find one slug, you're done with healing for the run. Seriously, one Cautious Slug is all you need, and you can go all the way to Mithrix. Without it, you are relying on all the other healing items, which are bad and also not good. Number 7 is Oddly Shaped Opal. I slept on Opal for a while, but it is such a good item. Every 7 seconds, you get half of a Safer Spaces for the price of a white item. It really shines during the Mithrix fight, especially on Eclipse 8. Taking permanent damage during the Mithrix fight can be super scary because all of Mithrix's attacks do solid chunks of damage. Meaning by the time Phase 3 rolls around, if you mess up one pizza slice, GG. Opal not only lowers the curse you take from swings to keep health higher, but also can save your run if you bite a piece of pizza. Number 6 is the Delicate Watch. It's widely considered one of the best items in the game, and the better of a player you are, the better this item is. But the risk of losing the watch entirely brings its value down a little bit. It's still a super important damage boost and gives some great multiplicative damage. Starting our top 5, we have Lens Maker's Glasses. If we look at straight damage compared to the Delicate Watch, it's about half as good. On average, crit glasses give you a 10% damage boost, while watches give 20%. However, glasses can't break. Not only that, but crit synergizes with a lot of other items, like Predatory Instincts, Harvester Scythe, Shatter Spleen, and Laser Scope. For those reasons, it sits one slot above Delicate Watch. Now, you may have noticed that there has not been a single speed item yet on this list, and that's because all 3 of them are within the top 4 items. Starting with number 4, which is Mocha. Mocha gives you half a goat hoof and half a syringe. With Syringe being relatively survivor dependent, Mocha loses some value, but speed being so incredibly important in this game means Mocha deserves the number 4 slot. Our number 3 item in Risk of Rain 2 is Gasoline. Now I might get some constructive feedback here, but goddamn I love myself a Gasoline. You rarely need more than one, but having one feels infinitely better than having 0. Being able to clear out groups of enemies during a run with AoE is so important, and it being the only white AoE item other than Fireworks, if you count that, makes it even better. I can usually make it to stage 5 with a Gasoline, even if my other items leave more to be desired. Our number 2 slot for white items goes to energy drink. It is a little faster than a goat hoof, but going from 5 energy drinks while sprinting to 0 while walking can be a little tricky and a little jarring. However, it's still an incredibly important item and should almost always be printed into. And with no surprise, our number 1 slot goes to Paul's goat hoof. Speed is the name of the game, and the game's name is Paul. Goathoof is probably the best item to see drop from a chest. You will quite literally need speed past Eclipse 4, and it makes stages like Siren's Call way less scary. If you got speed, you can work with a lot less. And that's why Goathoof takes the number 1 slot. And that wraps up the list. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and let me know what changes you'd make to my list. Now with all that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time.